Welcome in to Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. On tonight's show, Steelers legend Terry Bradshaw spills on the latest surrounding Aaron Rodgers and whether or not he will return to the Steelers in 2026. Then Cam Heyward explains his cryptic tweet that he sent out on Super Bowl Sunday regarding his future in the National Football League. Then Mark Kaboly shares the latest on Kenny Gainwell and Patrick Queen and whether or not they will be back with the Steelers next season. And then Joey Porter Sr. sounds off on Big Ben Roethlisberger, calling him a bad person. Going to let you guys know my thoughts on that at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into today's content, you guys did such a great job with our Valentine's Day merch that our design team here at Chat Sports has fast-tracked our St. Patrick's Day gear that is now available on our website, chatsports.com/pitgreen. It is the Steel City Drinking Team t-shirt. We're only doing t-shirts this time around, guys, but they're only $29.99. They are green. They've got the Steel City Drinking Team with the little clover on the helmet there. I really love the design. I helped our design team here at Chat Sports come up with this. And guys, just like the Valentine's Day merch and are married into this collection, which is still available on our website, by the way, the more that we sell, the more merch opportunities we are going to get for the NFL draft, for free agency, for when the Steelers make a big trade for somebody. Whenever those opportunities come up, if we can do a really good job with this Steel City Drinking Team t-shirt, we can get more merch opportunities as the offseason continues. So get yours today, chatsports.com/pitgreen. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show. Make a purchase. It helps out the channel. We get more merch opportunities for you guys to take advantage of in the future, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you make a purchase today. So let's get into the content here for today, guys, which is that first things first, Terry Bradshaw says that he's quote-unquote heard that Aaron Rodgers has already confirmed that he's coming back if Mike McCarthy, the new Steelers head coach, wants him back in 2026, which we've already heard from McCarthy that he does. This is what Terry Bradshaw had to say on the future of Aaron Rodgers. I have heard right before the McCarthy thing was announced, I had already heard that Aaron Rodgers told Mike, if you want me to come back for a year, I'll come back and join you. So if this is true and Aaron Rodgers told Mike McCarthy, I'm willing to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers again next year if you're the head coach, if you want me to be there, that means that he's essentially coming back next year, guys, because we've already heard Mike McCarthy multiple times say that he wants Aaron Rodgers to return in 2026. And, I don't think Terry Bradshaw has any incentive to lie about stuff like this. He's not particularly super fond of Aaron Rodgers. You guys will remember last year he had the infamous chew on bark comments and all that different stuff. So I don't think Terry is lying about this. I think he actually has heard some inside information that Rodgers is likely to be coming back to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. And if you've been watching the channel lately, guys, you know that I don't think that's the worst idea. In fact, I think Rodgers gives the Steelers the best possible chance to win a Super Bowl in 2026. I did a whole video about it on the channel a couple weeks ago. I'll put the link to that one in the comments and description and put the chip to the top right if you want to see all my reasons why I think Aaron Rodgers coming back for another season would be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, this past Sunday here, guys, Cam Heyward, team captain, Pro Bowler, one of the best defensive tackles in the game still, at 36 years old, posted a GIF on his X account of a book closing, and a lot of people kind of took that to mean, hey, this is me closing the book on my career, I'm heading towards retirement. A lot of people took it that way. Well, Cam Heyward released his latest episode of his podcast, the Not Just Football Podcast, and he says that's not the message that he tried to send. He said this: we're going to close the book on this season. I closed the book on this season as well. So essentially, he was just saying, Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to close the book on the 2025 NFL season, and that's why I posted the book closing. But even Cam's co-host on the Not Just Football Podcast, his name is escaping me here, but he kind of called him out on that response, saying that was dirty work of him to put that out there, knowing that he's an older player, that, the narrative around him is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? To post something like that, he had to have better awareness. And Cam's response to that was dirty work. All I was saying is I finally get to close the season. It was from Super Bowl day. I had to do stuff on Super Bowl day. So listen, man, Cam just can't be that naive. I mean, as an older player that has talked about the possibility of retirement before, if you're going to post something with a book closing and with no other context, that people are going to take it a certain way. And if he was seriously really naive to that, and he thought that everybody was crystal clear about the message that he was saying. Like, I just don't know what to say to Cam, man. Like, this sort of cryptic tweet stuff, like, this is stuff that wide receivers do. This is not what your team captain, the person that's supposed to be the rock of your organization is putting out there, drawing up controversy and all that different stuff. But honestly, it does sound like Cam Heyward is going to be coming back next year. Everything that he said on Radio Row last week in San Francisco, everything from the Rich Eisen show to Colin Cowherd's show, like, he sounds like he's coming back for another season. He does have another year left on his contract. It seems like he's loving the hire of Mike McCarthy as the new head coach. And I would say to Steelers fans out there that weren't big fans of the contract dispute last year to buckle up, because I do think another contract dispute is coming at some point during the offseason, and maybe even, bleeding into the training camp like we saw it happen last year. I mean, it went right up to, week 1 versus the New York Jets is when that contract dispute really took place. And eventually they came to a point where they added some incentives to Cam's deal last year. And, he didn't hit any of those incentives because he didn't hit the sack numbers, no playoff victories. So he ended up not making any more money than what he was under contract for. But you guys can take a look at what Cam's 2026 financials look like. He's slated to have slightly over a $19 million cap hit next year. And then in terms of the cash that he's slated to receive, it's just over $14.2 million. And, Cam Heyward, might be sitting there and saying, I'm one of the best defensive tackles in football, yet in terms of the cash that I'm getting, I'm not even getting close to the top 10 highest paid defensive tackles in football. Right now, Deron Payne is currently sitting at number 10 with $22.5 million per season. And Cam Heyward is still playing at an all-pro caliber level, and he's slated to only get about 14.2. So I could see Cam Heyward once again making a little bit of a fuss, trying to get more money on his deal as he probably heads into the final year of his NFL career. And my guess is they'll probably come to some sort of agreement again where they add some incentives when it comes to sacks, when it comes to certain statistics, and then probably playoff victories is probably the way they'll set it up again. So if the Steelers win the Super Bowl and he gets a certain amount of sacks, he can make some more money. But I don't think the Steelers are going to budge in terms of the structure of the contract, and I don't think they'll give him an extension. So I think that at the end of the day, that's probably the way that this thing probably plays out. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Will Cam Heyward play for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026? Type P if you think he plays, or type R if you think he retires. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, Mando. While I tell you about today's sponsor, give me a P for play or R for retire down there in the comments. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Mando Whole Body Deodorant. And guys, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It's this weekend, and there's lots of things that you can do to get yourself ready for your Valentine's Day. You might get a haircut, clean your car, maybe you buy some new cologne to make yourself smell better. But no matter what fragrance you're rocking with this Valentine's Day, deodorant is an absolute non-negotiable. That's where our friends at Mando Whole Body Deodorant come in. Mando deodorant is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours, and comes in a wide variety of fresh scents such as Pro Sport, Mount Fuji, Clover Woods, my personal favorite, Bourbon Leather. Personally, guys, I actually brought my stick of Mando deodorant here today to show you guys that I actually use and love Mando products. I use their Bourbon Leather deodorant and their body wash in the shower every single day. And some men mask their BO with scents and colognes and fragrances, but Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it, Mando it. Available in retailers near you, or head on over to shopmando.com, because for a limited time only, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Mando's got you covered from head to toe with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness with our friends at Mando today. So now we'll go into a couple of things that Pat McAfee Show Steelers insider Mark Kaboly has said about what the Steelers plan to do this offseason, starting with Patrick Queen, where he says that the Steelers are more likely to extend Patrick Queen than cut him this offseason. All the recent buzz is that the Steelers are going to cut Patrick Queen. Kaboly says he thinks it's more likely he gets extended this offseason. This is what Kaboly had to say about PQ. I don't know who replaces Patrick Queen unless you find somebody else out there right now to be be able to bring in free agency and that you like better than him. I could see Patrick Queen getting extended more than I could see him get cut right now. And listen, man, the more that I think about Patrick Queen's situation, the more I actually want to keep him around. Now, you might be saying, but Jack, he had a 20+% missed tackle rate. He's not that great in pass coverage. He's one of the highest paid linebackers in football as it is right now, and we can save $13.3 million by cutting him. Why would we keep him? Well, I think that Patrick Queen could be a lot better in Patrick Graham's defense. We've actually talked a lot about Patrick Queen over the last several shows, and how Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin consistently put linebackers in really, really poor positions to succeed, asking them to take on, number 3 wide receivers in their cover 3 match looks, for example, and, it's just setting people up for a lack of success. Now, that doesn't take away all of the stuff that Patrick Queen didn't do at a super high level in 2025, but remember, this guy was an all-pro caliber player when he was in a competent defense with a competent defensive play caller in Mike Macdonald's Baltimore Ravens defense before he came to play for Pittsburgh. So now that we have somebody that I consider a very capable and very competent defensive coordinator, I think Patrick Graham can get the most out of a guy like Patrick Queen and his athleticism, just like he did with Robert Spillane, who really struggled here in Pittsburgh and then went to Las Vegas and was immediately one of the top linebackers in football. So I just don't really see, when I look at the landscape of free agency and the draft, who I'd rather bring in that I think would be better in 2026 than Patrick Queen, all right? When you look at everything that Queen brings to the table versus some of the top linebackers on the free agency market, like, sure, you could bring in Devin Lloyd, but you're going to have to pay him a ton of money, and that pretty much wipes out all the money you'd save by letting go of Patrick Queen this year. Devin Bush obviously didn't work out here in Pittsburgh before. I doubt he wants to come back. Nakobe Dean is interesting, but he's undersized, and I don't know if the Steelers want another undersized linebacker in this room. Leo Chanel is interesting, but I don't think he's as dynamic of an athlete as Patrick Queen is, and same thing goes for Alex Anzalone, who's 31 years old. So I don't really love a lot of the linebacker options that are on the free agency market, and honestly, I think at this point what I do, especially considering the Steelers still have plenty of cap space, they don't even necessarily need the extra $13.3 million by cutting Patrick Queen. What I'd do is I'd keep the 3 guys that were in this room last year, Queen, Wilson, and Harrison, see what they can do under a new play caller that actually knows what the hell they're doing. And then you draft a developmental linebacker prospect in the middle rounds that you hope can develop, and you can let Patrick Queen go in free agency next offseason. That's probably the best case scenario as far as I'm concerned. And, I could see it going either way. There's certainly some buzz that Patrick Queen could be cut at this point. And I would understand the reasons why. Like, he's not, based on his production in the last 2 years, he hasn't been worth the money the Steelers have been paying him. So I would understand why the Steelers, especially at a low-value position like linebacker, would want to save some money this offseason. But I could also see them wanting to utilize the skill set of Patrick Queen as just a downfield player that has excellent sideline-to-sideline speed, former All-Pro, all those different things. So at this point, I could see it going either way. But if it were up to me, I think I would be keeping Patrick Queen around here in 2026. But another interesting take from Kaboly has to do with Kenneth Gainwell, where he says that he does not see KG returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026, and instead will be looking to get the highest possible payout that he can get in the National Football League during free agency. Kaboly says, I think he's going to get overpaid by another team. He's more than just a special teams guy, third down back, a guy that can block on third downs, pick up blitzes. He's much more than that. And if you're a guy that's played in the league 5 years now, he's made $5.5 million. You want to go get paid as much as you can right now. If he already had a payday in his belt, so to speak, I think he'd be willing to come back here for a reasonable amount of money, but he's got to look out for himself, unless the Steelers are the ones that overpays for him. Now, listen, man, I don't think the NFL is necessarily as high on Kenny Gainwell as the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pittsburgh Steelers fans are. Nationally speaking, a lot of people don't think Kenny Gainwell is like this number one running back that's going to get, a huge contract this offseason. I mean, Pro Football Focus currently ranks Kenneth Gainwell as the 64th highest ranked free agent on their free agency big board, and then there's only the 10th highest running back. I mean, like, they've got guys like Rachaad White ahead of Kenneth Gainwell, all right? So I don't think that, PFF and, a lot of these other NFL teams around the league nationally really see Kenneth Gainwell as this guy that's going to get a giant contract like Mark Kaboly seems to think here. And Fox Sports also put out a top 100 free agency list. Kenneth Gainwell wasn't even on that list. So it certainly seems like nationally, people aren't really aware that Kenneth Gainwell is as good as he is, especially as a number 2 running back. And my prediction is, I think he can make the most money here in Pittsburgh. I think Mike McCarthy, Omar Khan, especially Aaron Rodgers, if he's returning like it sounds like he is, those guys value Kenny Gainwell, and I think that they'd be willing to pay him probably more than any other team on the market. Right now, Spotrac just projects him at a 2-year, $6 million deal. I would do that in a heartbeat, but even if it's just a little bit more than that, like 2 years, $10 million, $5 million per season for one of the better number 2 running backs in the league, that's an excellent pass protector, that's an excellent receiver, that can line up in the slot or even out wide as a receiver if you need him to. Like, he does so much stuff. Special teams contributor. There's a reason why he was the team's MVP this year. And listen, man, $5 million, over 2 seasons, that's obviously a big pay bump compared to what he was making last year. And, that's life-changing money for Kenneth Gainwell right there. So I do think that Gainwell will be back next year. And if they don't, and if he ends up walking, and if Kaboly's right and somebody's going to massively overpay for him, then keep your eye on Aaron Jones on a 1-year deal. It seems like a foregone conclusion that the Minnesota Vikings will be letting go of Aaron Jones, who had a down year in Minnesota this year. Very close with Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy drafted him back in 2017. So a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield could be, a very similar Kenny Gainwell-esque number 2 running back for the Steelers if they can't bring back KG. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Kenneth Gainwell be a Steeler next season? Give me a yes or no down there in the comments section. Then we'll finish up here with a little bit of controversy here as Peezy Jr., Joey Porter Jr.'s dad, and of course Steelers legend Joey Porter Sr., put Ben Roethlisberger, the only quarterback that he's won a Super Bowl with, on blast during Super Bowl week on the Not Just Football podcast. This is what he had to say. The shit that Roethlisberger did that we don't talk about is crazy. Out of anybody that should talk, he should never grab a microphone and really talk Steelers business. Because if we're talking Steeler business, his ass is foul of all foul. He's not a good teammate. I won a Super Bowl with him, but the person, he's just not a good teammate. He knows that. Anybody in the Steelers building knows that. But we protected him because I've only won 1 Super Bowl, and that was my quarterback. So do I love my quarterback? Yeah, but is he a good person? No. So those are some very, very strong words from Joey Porter Sr. And then there's a number of current and former Steelers players that are encouraging this from Joey Porter Sr., including Mason Rudolph, who said, go off Joey Porter Sr. with a bullseye dart emoji. I mean, it's pretty well documented that Big Ben did not treat Mason Rudolph very well in their time together here in Pittsburgh. But some other players as well. You look at Kevin Dotson, put the exclamation marks on his. You've got other players as well that have played with Big Ben Roethlisberger that apparently weren't too big of fans of Big Ben. Now, there's a lot of talk about this, and does this affect Big Ben's legacy and all this different stuff? My 2 cents on it, guys, is 2 things can be true. Number 1, Ben is an all-time great Steelers player on the field. 2-time Super Bowl champion. Some of the greatest numbers we've seen from any Steelers player on the offensive side of the ball. All those different things. The way that he exited was awesome as well. Great memories for Steelers fans across the world. But another thing that can be true is he wasn't and really isn't the best person/teammate. Now, I don't know Ben personally, so I can't speak from experience, but I think there's enough people that have talked about his personal character to kind of let you in on, yeah, this guy maybe, isn't the highest quality character type of dude. And, I think that I'm perfectly comfortable living in a world where these 2 things can exist at the same time. You can be a great football player and not the best person in the world. Those 2 things can exist. But, outside of that, I really don't have that much to say about this controversy. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Did Peezy Sr. cross a line with these comments? Type J if you think they're justified, or type T if you think he went too far. That'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. We're going to have more Steelers content for you guys tomorrow. Ponzi and I will be live tomorrow evening for our second Steelers Talk live show of the week. So if you don't want to miss any of our content for the rest of this week, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.